she flatlines, and then the doctors will come in and then they push me out. And I'm like, my mom's dead. And then the next I go in, she's like intubated and on life support, and I'm calling my dad, I'm calling my family, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I was 16, 17, 18 years old looking at life and the fragility of it. And to me, it was like this timer. It's like, what are you going to do with the time that you have left?
This is Jasmine Star, and she wasn't supposed to make it. She's the daughter of a first-generation immigrant. She didn't learn to read until she was 11, and she spent her teen years caring for her mother who was fighting cancer. How did she go from hardship and trauma to building an 8-figure empire?
What's impossible?
Somebody who's unqualified, undereducated, unfunded, and unconnected, doing something statistically nobody else is doing.
This is the Grant Owen Podcast, and this is how you manufacture your own miracles.
Why did you drop out of law school?
My mom had a relapse with brain cancer. So she was diagnosed when I was a junior in college. And I think that totally changed like how fast I grew up. My mom had always struggled physically. I can't help but think like my mom's health deteriorated in inverse to the success that my father's church was experiencing. And so it was massive growth in East Los Angeles for the church. It's a town called Montebello, right? Adjacent to it's on the line of East Los Angeles, Montebello. And the church kept on growing and thriving. And my mom had a litany of health-related issues. She was hospitalized a lot when I was in high school. I was the one who was taking her to the hospital. And I think that what that was doing was imprinting on my subconscious that I am the responsible one. I am the person that she's turning to. I will keep this family going. And not going, that seems like too much of a stretch. Both my parents were doing the best that they could. My mom was very ill. I stepped in a much bigger way than any of my other siblings. And my father was called to a lot of different things at different times. And so when she was diagnosed, I went to school in Southern California. My sister and I ended up going to the same school because we got an academic scholarship. And we would drive home multiple times a week. We would stay the night there. We'd do laundry. We'd do cooking because the cancer was very aggressive. It started off in her eyes and then seeded into her central nervous system. So it attacked her mind and then later her brain. And it was a 9-year journey for her. And so she went up and down and up and down.
I want to ask about this because I think this is a core part of your story. Are you the youngest in the family? Are you in the middle of the family?
I'm the eldest.
Eldest. Mm-hmm. So being the oldest, and you see that your mom is having health issues, you're driving her to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Was that a necessity? Was that this is just what has to be done and I'm the person that wants to do it? Was not even a question, did your siblings want to be involved, or were you like, this is my battle and I just want to be the person that helps her in this?
To the best of my recollection, I was called upon. And so my parents have a really beautiful relationship. They have been married. They'll be married 50 years next year. So, and they are each other's ride or die. They're each other's biggest fans. And my mom, knowing that my father had such a calling on his life, wouldn't want to bother him by waking him up in the middle of the night because he was carrying, like, as you know, any pastor carries the pain and the worry of people in the congregation. And she's like, she didn't want to be another thing. And so she's always been like, I can take care of myself. And at this time during high school, she had extreme asthma. And so much so that in one of the times that I had taken her to the hospital, they ended up putting her on life support. And it was just really, really, really gnarly time. And so she would always come to my bedroom. And I would never say, like, ask Bianca. I was just like, sure, throw in my sweats. And then I'd speed her down, run 1,000 red lights to get her in. And the time that they had put her on life support, they weren't paying attention. Like, I was like, we know what's happening here. Like, we know, my mom had her own breathing machine at home. And if you get past that point, it's dangerous. And so I'm trying to tell everybody what's happening. And then she collapses. They put her in a room and I'm just screaming. She can't breathe. And so then she flatlines and then the doctors will come in and then they push me out. And I'm like, my mom's dead. And then the next I go in, she's like intubated and on life support. And I'm calling my dad, I'm calling my family. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And so I think that what was happening in high school that I could only see now is that I created a very funny, perhaps unhealthy relationship with time because I was 16, 17, 18 years old looking at life and the fragility of it. And to me, it was like this timer. It's like, what are you going to do with the time that you have left? And that's been powerful. And it could also be my Achilles heel.
So your reaction to trying to describe what's wrong with your mom when she's struggling to breathe, and you're the person that's called upon, like, I guess, who's caring for you in that moment? Was anybody having your back if you're the person having your mom's back?
I didn't not feel supported. As an adult, I could look back at that and distinctly think probably somebody should have checked in on me.
But it almost built, I mean, the fact of the matter is it built this resilience of like, this is what I do.
Absolutely.
This is who I am, so this is what I do.
Absolutely.
What was your reaction when you found the diagnosis?
Crazy enough, so I worked 2 jobs in college. I worked in the video library and also as a waitress at a restaurant adjacent to the campus. I was working a lot and I was going to school a lot. That's like what I did. And I was very focused, so much so that I wouldn't be really paying attention to my cell phone. So my sister, she's softer, the empath of our duo, they got through to my sister first, and she was in class. And so we roomed together, and I went back. I saw my sister crying and crying and crying. And my mom, we knew something was wrong with my mom, and it was inconclusive for almost 2 years. And then she said that they found cancer, and it was pretty serious.
Was it an immediate thought of, okay, I'm dropping out? Or what was that process like of, because like there's a noble part where like you are sacrificing your future in some way, or at least your perspective of this is what my future was supposed to be in order to be present and care for your family. Mm. So how long was that process of that decision making? To the best of my recollection, it was instantaneous. It went almost into like, I don't know, maybe I think my dad raised his daughters to be little mini Marines. It was like, no man left behind, and you're going to storm. I didn't think I was dropping out of school. I didn't think I wasn't going to be home. I was just like, you're going to find a way to make it work. Talk to me through that year. So that initial period of time, you find out the diagnosis is potentially terminal. Mm-hmm. Was that an immediate diagnosis or was...
No, because she went through, so she was diagnosed my junior year. And then by the time I graduated, she had her first brain operation. And they kept on, they cracked the side of her eye so that they would be able to do a biopsy for what was going on behind that ended up seeding into her brain and central nervous system. And so at that point in time, they knew it was pretty grave. And instead of giving us like the likelihood, because brain cancer is wildly unpredictable, they just said, here's our path to treatment, and then we'll reassess. And what we didn't know at the time was that there was going to be a litany of new treatments and then the path to take. And so we never had a definitive release until maybe 7 or 8 years into her journey, after 2 brain shunts, 2 brain surgeries, multiple times hospitalized, every radiation, every chemo, every specialist in the United States. And they had said that her time had come. Like there was nothing more that they could do. And it's at that time that I felt it was just the worst, because that's when you lose hope. As long as there's a plan. It's crazy now that I say it out loud. I think that's a lot how I function maybe as like an entrepreneur. As long as there's a plan. If there was a plan, like we're not giving up. We just have to have a plan. And I think that when the doctors stopped the plan, like you lost hope.
Yeah.
But that is where miracles happen. And that's where we needed to be. Because everybody said it was hopeless. And then random strangers around the United States just started sending letters to like the church. And they were like, my mom's name is Millie. Like, Millie, we don't know you, but we're praying for you. And I think that hope without a plan is still a plan. And that changed everything. They had this like radical impact that she believed that she could be a testament. And then lo and behold, here she is, still to this day.
What was your belief in God like at that time? Did you struggle with faith?
You know what? I didn't struggle with faith. I struggled with anger. Because I had said, of all the years, of all the painstake, I don't know how it was when your dad had built a church, but there's a lot of people who are happy and in agreement. There's a lot of people who are not. And I felt like my dad went through so much and people had turned on him in so many different ways, and he was still so faithful. And he had never imagined that he was going to be a pastor. And so here was a person who was like this happenstance, fill in the gap. And then it turned into this thriving thing. And they had given their lives. The church was their 6th child. They had given everything to it. And so just imagine I'm sitting at my dad's church and all I feel is like, at the time, there was like a really popular song, and the chorus is like, you give and take away, you give and take away. My heart will choose to say, I can't even say it, blessed be your name. Because I was like, I can't say that because this is unfair. It's just unfair. And I was angry. I was angry.
Were you angry at people or angry at God?
God. Angry at God.
How did you communicate that?
By telling him. By telling him. I casually joke with my family that I will be like Jacob and I will wrestle with God and I will not give up. And for the rest of my life, I will walk with a limp, but I won't give up.
Yeah, I think that concept of hope is really difficult for people. The thing about when you have someone close to you that is hurt or is hurting, and there's no, especially when they're faithful, and you're looking at them and you're saying why. I've walked with some people through that, and I tend to question the goodness of God in those seasons, especially because, I don't know, you were relatively young. I imagine, did you ever have any doubting seasons in your faith?
That was the first one.
That was the first one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I had a doubting season in my faith, and the first thing I questioned was God's goodness. Because I said, this is a good thing. Like, I want, the thing I want is a good thing. And I think you want good things. I think you bless good things. And I don't know why you're not blessing this good thing. Something that struck me when you said it is just people sending letters to your church and to your family as this thing is going to be a monument of God's grace. This thing is going to be a testament of God's faithfulness. What happened when was there a point where you're like, this feels like this season is over? Or has it always been a constant thing, even though she's still alive, still fighting, but still like actively hope-filled?
So when they had stopped all treatment, we just were cautious for around 6 months because we weren't sure what her body was going to do, and nothing changed, which was fine with us. We just didn't want it getting worse. And then she kind of lived in an up and down state. She was still very weak. She wasn't driving, but she wasn't on chemo and she wasn't on radiation. It was just this gnarly time. Like her hair started growing back and she was able to sit up. She was literally in a bed for years. And I think that a shift for me became when I went to law school and she had a relapse. I just was like, I'm 25 years old and my mom is 50 and she's not getting through this time. And I promptly had a midlife crisis. I was like, what am I doing? Like, why do I want to die a lawyer? Like, I didn't have a reason. I didn't have a why. I just wanted to get out. I wanted to get out and I wanted to get away. And all of a sudden it's like, she's in the hospital bed and it's New Year's Eve. We weren't supposed to be there, but the nurses were so gracious to us because it was New Year's Eve and we just wanted to be with our mom. And she wasn't talking about the things that she had done. She was talking about the things that she wished she had done. And it was so simple and then yet so deep. It's like she wanted to ride first class in an airplane. She wanted to write a children's book. She wanted to visit Austria. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I am trying to live a life so that I do and I accomplish without actually doing what it is I want. And that changed everything. I could not go back to school. Every day going to school just felt like a death sentence. Probably the death of the life I thought I wanted. And I walked into the dean's office. I didn't tell anybody. And I walked into the dean's office and I said, I need to take a medical leave. And at the time, I genuinely thought, I went on a full ride scholarship to UCLA. And I genuinely thought I was coming back. And I had 3 years to do so. And so I left and I told my boyfriend at the time, my high school sweetheart, we'd been dating around 9 years at this time. And I said, I want my mom to see me get married. And I had a plan. Oh, did I have an Excel spreadsheet? We'll get married at this time. This is when we buy the house in the West Side. And this is when we're going to get the BMW. And this is when we have the baby. And this is when we get the dog. It was color coded. And all of a sudden, I literally flung myself at him. And I was like, I don't need anything. I want to get married. I want to do life with you. I want my mom to see us together. And so shortly thereafter, he proposed and we got married less than 3 months later.
Talk to me about him. How long have you been married?
20 years.
20 years. What's the benefit of marrying your high school sweetheart?
the benefit is also the detriment to a lot of relationships is you change so many times. We've been married 20 years, but we've been together almost 30. And if science and studies show we change as humans, like our on a cellular level, we change every 7 years. And so I think to myself, I have been with this man through 3 iterations. And for him to choose me again and for me to choose him again and again has been the best part of our journey. And I understand that's not for everybody. Not everybody grows together. And I'm very fortunate that we have been able to grow independent of each other and then be very connected to each other.
Was he a rock to you throughout this process?
Oh, a rock. I always say that he is the anchor and I'm the kite. He is always like, fly higher, go higher. I'll get sturdier. Just go, go, go. But I can't, what is a kite without an anchor? Lost.
So a lot of guys that are dating a 25-year-old girl and the girl comes to them and they say like, hey, you have to marry me right now. That's like a terrifying thing.
Except he was a lover boy. He was sending he was having his mom take him to the local CVS and buy Valentine's when he was like 5 and 6.
For real.
No, definitely a lover boy. Like he is like, he's like heart of gold, but then, bleeding heart.
So did he already have a ring for?
He, I think he had ideas of a ring. We had spoken about it, but he wanted to actually propose when we were in college. Like he wanted to be married when we got out of college. Like he wanted me to do law school with us doing it together. Mm. And I was like, according to my Excel spreadsheet, no, it's like when I'm at L2, I will have finished and I'm sitting on bar review, then we could celebrate. I mean, it was ridiculous, this life plan I had.
So he was like, finally.
Oh, he was like all in. Yeah. He was all in, which is crazy. Like if you were to meet him, like my family, like they joke with it, they're very serious. It's like, God forbid anything happens to you guys, but we choose him. Mm-hmm. Like we keep him. Yeah. Savage family.
That's awesome. This episode is brought to you by me. I have no sponsors for this podcast. I put a lot of energy into making these, and all I ask is that you consider hitting that subscribe button. It turns out that a lot of people that watch content on YouTube aren't subscribed to those channels, and that is totally fine. In fact, subscribers are really just a vanity metric, but it does tell me that it impacts you and that you enjoy this and that you might consider watching more of my videos, and that just tells me that I should keep making them. So if you are enjoying this and you haven't subscribed so far, all I ask is that you consider subscribing and supporting the channel, because that dramatically impacts the amount of people we can reach. And I would love to reach as many people and help as many people as possible. Thank you. Now let's get back to the episode. There's actually something really powerful in the fact that at such a young age, you were confronted with mortality.
Yeah.
It's such a hardship that someone in high school should not have to go through, and someone young should not have to go through. But like, I think there's such a blessing in that, because you knew what your life was going to be like if you followed that plan. But hearing someone on their deathbed say, like their deathbed,
yes,
say, these are my regrets, because that's what every person on their deathbed says. These are the things I wished I did more. You threw away that Excel spreadsheet, the color coded, this is the life I'm going to live, this is when we're going to buy the house, this is when we'll make a fence. What shifted that you were like, okay, this is actually the things I really want to do with my life?
I think what shifted is the very thing that I keep on going back to today. It became a life tenet. It's do everything you want to do today. You don't know if today is your last day, and you don't want to look back and wish you had done things differently. I would rather live with mistakes than regret. And I learned that very young. And I'm so thankful that I did, because every decision that has led us to like life leap has been because I was choosing something that didn't make sense and was extraordinarily risky.
So you get married and your mom starts to recover.
She does. And I think a lot of times, so I started at that time reading books around brain. It started off with reading books around brain cancer, and then kind of like ancillary, like books about the brain, around psychology, around elasticity. The idea that like hope is an idea, but it's for those who are ill, a very tangible, visceral thing. And so when my husband approached my parents to ask for my hand in marriage, I think that for her, she just had the next goalpost. Like, I need to make it to this. And I think that had a transformative effect on her body.
Because of that, you guys got married. What next? What happened in life? Because you just threw out the book.
Yes. And so at this point in time, I did the thing that I thought was very important. My parents to see us get married.
Yeah.
And we are married. We're living in this tiny little beater of an apartment, so much so that There's only a garage that you can't park into because our neighbor has her car that's not working and she's elderly. And she's like, I just need to leave my car there. So we have to park along the street. And then I have to call my husband when I get home from work so he can walk downstairs and walk me back up. That's the kind of ripe area that we were living in at the time. And so I get a letter from UCLA and it says, now is the time to come back and reclaim your scholarships if you're going to catch up and where you had left off in your second semester. And I just cried. I'll never forget. It came on a pink piece of paper. And I was like, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. And my husband asked, well, what do you want to do? I said, I want to become a photographer. And he's like, okay, you don't own a camera. And I was like, I know, but like in me, like I feel like I can do this thing. Yeah. I feel like if I had a camera, I would figure out how to make it work. And like, I think that most people would say like, yeah, like, why don't you go to law school and have this be your side hustle or have it be a hobby? And he's not most people.
Yeah.
He's just like, I'd rather see you fail at something you love. Because I told him I'm going to fail. Like, I want everybody to get on the same page. I'm going to fail. Okay. Are we on the same page? Do you agree to the terms? This is already me, like my lawyer showing up. Do you agree to the terms of my failure? Because if you do and I agree to them, then great.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy. And he had said, I'd rather see you fail at something you love than succeed at something you hate. Let's give it a year. Because I still had 1 year left. And he's like, worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is you try it. It doesn't work. You have a really great camera. And I was like, I'm in. I'm in.
What do you like about photography? What about photography spoke to you as like, this is something I want to do?
I've always been a watcher. So I grew up obese as a child. I weighed more than my dad. I wasn't even 5 foot. I weighed close to 200 pounds.
What?
I know. And for years. And I've always struggled with my weight. And then now that I'm an entrepreneur and I create content, people can watch like the cycles. It's always been a lifetime. It's always been a struggle. It started in childhood. And it was probably eating to cope and eating for joy and eating out of emotion. And my parents were very okay with it. They were just like, you do you. Being overweight caused me to watch. I was never center of the room. I was never somebody anybody noticed. I was a classic wallflower. And so I think that becoming a photographer allowed me to put myself in the center of the room without being noticed, but also having a reason to be. I look back and I know that my camera was a passport. It was a physical passport. I had never seen more of the world than I had as a photographer. I had never been able to get into circles or echelons of people without a reason. I became embraced by proxy of the thing I held in my hand. And to me, it flipped my world upside down.
I love the art of photography because there's something about capturing a moment. I hate family photos. I hate them. I can't stand them.
Wait, you hate taking them, being in them, the idea of them?
Being in them, the idea of them,
Okay.
because I especially when you have it with a family, because I don't think it captures the heart of what the family actually is.
Right.
It captures a moment, and it's always the buttered up
Yes.
pictures. But I love videos because I want to remember like the words my kids mispronounced.
Yeah.
I want to remember the fighting. Like I want to remember like how did they fight? How do they argue? How did they like they punch each other? Who was like who was angry? Yeah,
right?
who was angry before we took this photo?
Right.
Like because you're taking it. It's like, hey, shut up. All right,
Yes.
get in your everybody get your spots. You're gonna be smiling. You're gonna be happy. But it's like this moment of like I have to capture as happy as we possibly can be.
Yes.
As good as we possibly can look, and you miss all the beautiful imperfection of it. But what spoke in the photography space to you?
I think the intoxicating thing is that it's a skill that you can work on for anticipatory moments. I became a human psychologist, like an anthropologist. Like if anybody could get into my head as I approached a wedding, it was like narrated. And now the female species approaches and they wait, beholden. It's like I knew everything. I became a predictor of people and behaviors and moments. And to me, it was intoxicating because the better predictor I got, it became a game. It became like literally, can I hit a hole in one, a hole in one, a hole in one, getting off the green. And I love that. There was always a way to continue to get better and then see the moment before the moment happened and then knew immediately. I don't know. We actually had our family photos taken before we came here for this filming. And I was talking to the photographer. I was like, listen, I know this photo shoot's supposed to be an hour. I promise you we can get it done in 22 minutes because when you know you got the shot, I trust you.
Yeah.
Because you intuitively feel it. And so I loved that. To me, it was amazing. It was powerful to be able to anticipate the moment and then capture it, which is now why when I walk into rooms or stages or business meetings, it's like I have a skill set that's unrivaled. Most people haven't worked with other people watching them for 17 years in a professional capacity to anticipate and to read body language.
So it sounds like in that first year, you were pretty successful from the get. Did you fail at all in that first year?
I mean, it was like a string of failures. I mean, it was like failure after failure. Here's like one of the most epic ones that I can't help but walk away from. So I've never started a business. I never believed that I could start a business. I'm 25 years old in my first time in my life. I'm like, wait, I could do this? Like, wait, it was this foreign concept. So anyway, a client had booked me for her wedding. And then somewhere sent me the contract with the deposit. We have all that lined up. Somewhere along the line, she tells me she's going to change the wedding date of her wedding. I sent her the new contract. What I don't do is update it on my calendar so that the week before the wedding, and I had booked another wedding, she's like, I'll see you on Saturday. And I'm like frantic. And then I promptly say, this is the end of my career because I have 2 weddings I'm supposed to be at. And this is how dark your girl is. I am so strung out on like, I cannot. I've worked so hard. I can't go back to law school. I look at my husband and I say, I'm going to say something crazy, but you cannot judge me. What if we send my sister as the photographer? My twin, nobody will know. And at the time, JD was shooting with me. I said, so you go with Bianca because I know that you can bang this wedding out. I'll hire a second shooter that day. That's our plan. And he's just like, never in a million years will you ever sacrifice your name or integrity for this. He's like, you have to eat this. He's like, you have to eat it.
Wait, that's a brilliant idea.
I thought it was too. Thank you.
I think it's a brilliant idea.
You know what? You and I are.
She was a shooter. It wasn't like she wasn't skilled. Was she skilled? Was she good at it?
Well, I should never touch the camera. But I was like, we're twins. No one can tell.
That's a movie.
It is. It's a plot to a great movie.
Yes.
And so I did. Like, I knew what was the right thing to do, and that was like to eat it, but I just felt terrible. So I went to her and I explained what had happened. I said, I have your contract. It was 100% on me. I will absolutely refund you the money, but I'm going to tell you it's going to be a very difficult situation. I've shot now with my husband for a year. He's a person, like I trust him with everything. I will send him and another first photographer. You will be getting quality photographers. I will eat the cost on all of it. I will also include an album. She didn't buy a wedding album. I was like, I will do all of this. I will eat all of it. And if you would like, I will shoot a session of you and your husband in your wedding outfit if you would like after. I mean, it was just like all the things. She ended up agreeing and it ended up being okay. But I literally thought that was the end of my career because it was like, it's going to get out.
But isn't that so funny that that's actually like your response to it is the beginning of your career? Like, that's exactly how a good business person operates.
Right.
It's like, I care about the experience. I don't care about the value. I don't really even care necessarily about the money, but like, I want my name to be associated with your experience is that great.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is, even if I fail you, is over delivered.
100%.
On these different things.
100%.
Like that's actually like, it's more important. Like anybody can shoot something nice.
Right.
But no one, like there's very few people that can be like, this is the experience and this is the result and they can guarantee that.
That's how my career grew.
Yeah. So that was your first failure.
Of many.
Of
many. I mean, there are cards like, this is, so one of the cool things that happened that I didn't know, it was like this cultural zeitgeist within the photographic community in that so many people were shooting film. It was the predominant mode. And so for me to come in when the industry was changing so radically with digital photography, I had a much shorter learning curve. I had immediate feedback. I had a screen on my camera that was telling me where my exposure was. I immediately learned how to shoot manually quickly because of the instantaneous feedback versus having to wait and light meter and things like that with film photography. So it was a really cool opportunity for business growth.
Did you immediately get like monetary growth in that first year, or how long did it feel like, okay, I don't got to go to school?
So, okay, I was working part-time at my dad's church, but I also had health insurance for my husband and myself.
Nice.
And so then I had said, if I can make more in my photography career than I would have in part-time at the church and cover insurance, that's my time. So I just started stacking cash. So JD and I lived very simply. Like date night was Taco Bell, and we lived in like this old apartment, but they were zoned still. We had a grandfathered in for a fireplace, which is really rare in this like neck of the woods. And so we had a fireplace. He'd bring home Taco Bell. We'd sit in front of the fireplace and like date night, epic, a little romance, a little hot sauce. And that became our first way of turning money into long-term wealth. It's like, what could we do with what's in front of us that would get us an outsized return on what we were investing in? And so I made $100,000 from photography the first year. And that was more money than my dad had made in 3 years. And so in my mind, it became very clear, I'm off to the races. I was only working, once I decided to start, this was like 2007, I was working maybe 5 months, and I had booked enough for me to pocket what I need, buy me a 3-month window, because I was just like, 3 months, like I can go back to my dad's church, or I can go back to school. I will then have to make the declaration if I'm going to go back then. That was my window.
Was there a thought in your mind of like massive success? Because there's freelance photography, and then there's business photography, and I think there's different tiers.
Mm-hmm.
Like anybody can hire a second shooter. Mm-hmm. You probably grew significantly from photo-based like Instagram or Facebook or just posting.
Oh my
stuff.
God, no, I'm going to age myself. This is pre-social media, dude.
For real?
For real.
So how are you getting, was it just referral based?
It was a blog.
Let's go.
It was a blog.
Let's go.
I didn't have any money for a website.
Yep.
I started the blog just to document the time that I tried. The blog was a dedication to trying something and failing, so that when I was in law school, I could look back and not be on my deathbed and say, you didn't try. That was my big thing. And so I started documenting on freaking Blogspot, and jasminestarphotography.blogspot.com. That's what I would tell.
Exist?
It still does. I had to look for an old photo, and I was like, is that thing still alive? And it's like all janky. It's HTML. It's ugly as all get out. However, it still does exist. My first entry is from the end of 2006, or beginning of 2007. And I start documenting the journey. I'm just uploading photos of my life and what I'm practicing. An orange tree in my backyard. My husband and I in Little Tokyo eating sushi. Just, I'm out with my camera. It's like street photography. Why? Because like you didn't need permission for street photography. So I'm documenting these things, and lo and behold, I didn't know this thing called SEO. And I get an inquiry through Blogspot. It was like a message. And she had said, I noticed that you're shooting. And so I would drive 6 hours to Fourth shoot a wedding for free, turn the photos over to the photographer on the condition that I could use 3 photos in my portfolio. I was doing this. I was hustling. I was doing whatever.
Goodness, that's a tier of hustle.
I just said, you know what?
Insane.
It was insane, and I did it again. I flew myself to Atlanta. There was a photographer who I met in a photography forum. She was like, I'm looking for a second photographer. I have 3 weddings in a weekend, and I really need help. It was over a holiday weekend, and I was free. I was desperate. I asked my dad if I would be able to use his flight miles, and I got my coach ticket on flight miles to Atlanta. I shot 3 weddings. I think we probably slept 4 hours a night. I came back and I was at work on Monday morning, but I got 3 photos from each of those weddings. I went to Atlanta for 9 photos that I was able to add to my portfolio. And you want to know what? I blogged every single one of them, and I was just typing. And so here's one thing that I knew immediately. I learned early on, there's something about brand. And there's something about storytelling. Where other photographers were posting photos online, I wrote a small story about each of the people who got married. I was narrating it, and unbeknownst to me, SEO was full in effect. And so the message that I had received was a woman who typed into Google Korean Hollywood hairstyles. And at the time, I had second shot a wedding at a restaurant called Yamashiro in Hollywood. She was Korean. Her husband was Vietnamese. And I had linked to her hairstylist. All of those words allowed my blog to come up. But she was looking for hairstyle inspiration, came across my blog, read about the story, started reading other stories, passed it on to her cousin who was getting married, and said, hey, I think you should hire this girl. I booked my first 20 weddings just from my blog.
So when did you realize that you were in the top 1% of this?
When the amount of hate came out. So it was like 2011, 2012. That's when a lot of like negative backlash really started appearing online. Why? Oh, for every reason. For every reason. I mean, why are people so upset at other people's success? And I could quickly tell I wasn't, and I am not the most talented. And I wasn't, and I am not the most skilled. And I wasn't, and I am not the most refined, the most well-spoken, the most talented, the most robust, lineage, silver spoon, educated. I am on average worse than most people. And I remain in the top 1 or 2%. That is very annoying to people. And some people find it inspiring.
Because I think even at that time, it was hard to hate. It was a harder time. Like now it's easy to hate on someone. it's easy to comment. It's easy to send a DM. It's easy to, like, that's an easy process. In 2011, 2012, like, you kind of have to go out of your way to create backlash.
Yes, but with the Federalist Papers and Alexander Hamilton, the hate existed there too.
Yeah.
Where there is success, derision, hate, and jealousy and envy always exist. And it's just in those mediums. When the radio first came about, we could always immediately say, oh my gosh, the amount of hate that could be spewed on radio waves versus a newspaper. It's always amplified. But trust me, it was just as easy to hate then as it is now.
What was your initial reaction to it?
Oh, it hurt. What about me? I never wanted this. They don't know me. And then over time, it quickly became, spell my name right, give me a link, say it again, louder this time.
Yeah.
So what happens is negativity is attention and exposure. Attention and exposure to new audiences who had no idea who you were. So their efforts became the antithesis of what they wanted the outcome to be. Because what had happened is at this time, so I'm starting off my photography career. I'm shooting weddings. I'm making $100,000 my first year, which is not a lot of money to most people, but it was the most money I had ever seen in my freaking whole entire life.
Well,
and
also,
I was like,
it's photography. And at the time,
exactly.
In 2010, 2011,
2007.
2007,
yes.
$100,000 was a lot of money.
A lot of money. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going all in. And so then what happens is by 2009, people are asking me, how are you doing this? How are you not like the most talented? Because people, the blog comments, because these are anonymous blog comments, the way that there are anonymous comments now, they're like, you're overexposed. I had said, I got this new lens and I had said, it's like a 50 millimeter 1.6 and the 1.6 doesn't exist. I look at it, I was like, oh, 1.4. I go back and like, I change it. And I was like, thanks haters. You guys are really making me better. But at the end of the day, what happens is every time there's negativity, you have to ask yourself, your filter is what about what they're saying is true? It wouldn't hurt my feelings if it wasn't true. If I looked across the table and I said, look at you, you're a blue zebra. You'd be like, okay. But if I said something to you and just a tiny bit of it hurt, that's the truth, and that's what you should address. And that was what was making me constantly better. They were constantly holding up that kernel of truth of the thing that I hated in myself that I really wanted to change. But then what happens is when they go through and they have all of this negativity, it exposes you to a group of people who have no idea what they are and who you are, and then they are empowered to make a decision about you. And by and large, on the depth and breadth of what I had put out, people started liking me more than the groups of people who hated me. So what they wanted was to tear me down, and what they did was add more exposure. 2009, 2010, I had this online shop. I didn't know how to create an online store. I didn't know how to create a PDF. I didn't know anything. I just Googled my way to figure out how could I create a PDF and sell it. That alone, a $19 PDF, opened up another 6-figure revenue stream for me in the business. So I'm figuring out the business of photography and then the business to photographers. That's 2 different markets, and we were quickly growing in both of them. And that's how the money started coming, and then the hate in equal proportion to that. In 2013, 14, there was a big concerted effort to completely destroy me. And it did. It did. There were things that were true. There were lies. They said that I stole photos. They said that I lied. They created such a ruckus that I had $400,000 slated in speaking revenue and sponsorships that were all pulled that year. None of it was verified. I spoke with everybody and I was just like, what in the world is going on? And I told those people, I was like, give me the chance to get in front of people and lay things out. And they said no. And on every speaking stage, I was a headliner for every that was my industry. This is the thing that I loved. I had over 2,000 long form blog posts teaching people for free everything that I knew. And on the back of education and teaching people, it opened a lot of other doors. I became a voice, a megaphone in the industry. And I'm like, don't you see what's happening here? Every single one said no. And I was like, never again. I am never speaking at an event. I am never dealing with this company again. And I immediately was like, I thought I was going to lose all of my clients that year. I was humiliated. Oh, you should just see at the time, like my Facebook page was like, you're a liar, you're a cheat. They were using bots early on.
What did they want? What did they hate about you? So like,
everything. I still don't know. They wanted me to stop.
They wanted you to stop because they didn't like the amount of success you had.
Or they just didn't like me. I can't put words in their mouth. They didn't like something.
You had $400,000 pulled from you. You had people calling you a liar, people hating on you for valid reasons and invalid reasons.
And I definitely want to side note, I don't want to make it that it was all, I had definitely made mistakes. I apologize for the mistakes, but I also was like, there's a bunch of lies, and what I'm being pulled for are these lies. And so I just want you to all understand, like, that is patent lies. And so what game are we playing here?
Yeah. But you said it beat you. You said it stopped you. Mm-hmm. What happened there?
I thought I was going to lose all of my clients. Now, at this point in time, JD and I are getting paid like $25,000 or $30,000 to shoot a wedding. We're being flown internationally. We, at this time, had really pulled back from weddings. We were only doing about 25 a year, but it was like a great revenue stream because we understood that the market to serve and sell to photographers was bigger than us being on the road as much. And at that time, we thought maybe we'd be starting a family. And I had said, I'm done. I'm done serving people that will turn against you like this. So I immediately focused on my clients and I started asking myself, what's next? And so I knew that I had a revenue stream that was supported by me being on the road, speaking to other photographers at these events. And I was like, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to close out the clients that I have. And I thought I was going to end that year. I ended up officially retiring in 2016, but in 2014, I was like, oh, heck no. And then we raised our prices and people continued to pay. And I was like, well, okay, that's great. And then I said, if I did it in photography, could I do it in a larger market? Could I do what I did? Could I teach what I know and go to a different market? And at the time I was like, I don't know anything. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know anything. And all of us, people right now watching, will tell themselves they don't know something. But everybody knows something, and because it becomes so easy to you, you think it comes easy to everybody else. And so oftentimes at this time, so it's 2014 and 15, Instagram hit the scene pretty big in 2012. That's when I was really leveraging it for my business. It was all organic growth. It became an online portfolio. I started getting a lot of attention for my work being on Instagram, and people were saying, like, how are you doing that? And so I decided to get into the digital space. I'm like, I had created PDFs. I had created video tutorials. I was selling them for like $3 in a photography store. It was like a 10-minute video tutorial for like $3. You could download it. You can keep it. It was just a way. But here again, that was like 7 figures of revenue just on content that we were creating. We would use our free social media, point them to like a $3 offer, and then that would be it. But they would be continue to buy. And I was like, okay, that's great. Could we do it slightly differently? So I created an online course for how to use Instagram to grow your business. It's called Insta 180. Terrible name. It's all good. It was my first time out. And it was $197. And in 5 days, we made $255,000. And then I was like, I'm off. I'm done. But I still continued. So that was one thing. It's like I worked in my dad's church to cover our bases. Like, how strategic of a risk are we going to take? Every time I'm making a strategic or financial risk, I'm looking at like, how much runway do I need from this thing before I leave the other thing? And because the revenue from the photography side was still so lucrative for us, and we'd built a portion of our lifestyle in it, and because I wasn't speaking as much, what was the digital side of the education side of the photography business going to do? That was still a big question mark. So I was just like, I'm not going to put my family in financial jeopardy because that's what I grew up with. So I think that for 2 years, it was nose to grind, still creating the digital revenue content, still shooting for clients, like luxury clients, and then starting this new arm of the digital business. And even though it did extraordinarily well, I was like, well, is this a one-time thing? Is this repeatable? And so I was always just trying to stack.
I do think there's a lot more in the defeat part, because I'm tying it back to almost your resourcefulness and your constant, like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to figure it out. Like, almost like the same response you had immediately when you found out your mom had cancer. I'm going to battle. There's not many people that reach the epitome of their industry and then get a vocal door slammed in their face.
I fell into a deep depression after all of that. Like, I just couldn't get out of bed. I was afraid. Like, I would close our window shades because I was getting like death threats. And I know it's like so silly when I look back at it, but at the time it felt very real. And then like people will take like a Google map photo of like our home. And it was just like an ugly, ugly time. And I felt like
people were taking a Google map photo of your home and sending it to you?
Yeah. They would be like, oh, well, we know where you live. You're a liar. You were preying on people. And I'm like, wow, I must be a violent person who prays for $3 videos. Like, it was an ugly time. And in my initial reaction was to do what I did with my mom. I'm pushing through. Watch me. I'm like, nobody will see me crack. And the person it killed was me on the inside. That's when I started therapy.
Was there a breaking point for you when you felt like, okay, this is my moment of depression that hit?
I had battled depression. I think that I've always had a penchant for the melancholy. I struggled with my first bout of depression when I was in law school and my mom had a relapse. I was at UCLA Medical Center and having the first time like real conversation around like long-term medical options. And I tried it and it didn't work. It wasn't for me. I knew immediately. I was just like, and I love it as an option for people. It wasn't an option for me at that time. So, but I'm a big advocate. Please get help. I needed to do internal work that I was completely overlooking, and I knew it intuitively in my being that this was not, I didn't need to cover it. I really needed to work through it. I had multiple rounds of depression, and this one was probably, I can look back and like, that was like the worst bout. It was the longest. It was like, how does somebody walk through depression, not wanting to get out of bed for 2 years and still have like this thriving career? You know, it's like we were doing the most, and I just hated myself. I felt like I had put my family in jeopardy. I felt like I was a smear to my family, and most awful, I felt like I was embarrassment to God. That was hard.
What does depression look like to you? To me, there was like a season in my life that I can say like I was depressed. I was depressed to the point where I couldn't get out of bed. I would find myself staring at walls for hours. And I felt, for me, it was numbness. I felt numb. I didn't feel sad. I didn't cry. I just didn't feel. And I didn't want to feel. But I find that it like I remember I would book therapy sessions and ghost them. Because I grew up in the church, and therapy, it wasn't like that was a negative thing, but like the church always like talked to a pastor first.
Right.
That wasn't like a thing that was pushed. And I grew up in a good church, and the people, I'll give credit, like the pastors I talked to said therapy. Not a lot of people have that. A lot of people say like, hey, you just need God. You just need to read your Bible more, and you'll figure it out. Just, but I had people in my life that were saying like, no, if you need to get help, it's okay for you to get help. If you need to get on medication, it's okay for you to get medication. I would book therapy sessions and I would ghost them because I just was like, I don't have the energy to like get out. For you, what did that look like?
A recent conversation with my therapist, she had said, Jasmine, your depression intimidates people because I work. I hail from a long line of addicts, and my drug of choice is work. I work to not feel. I work to achieve. I work to prove. I work to feel that there's validity in the things that I'm putting out in the world, that I am giving more than I am taking, and it contributes to your success, except for the fact if you don't keep your mental health in check with that, it's pretty disastrous. It's like the same as being addicted to alcohol. You can't, like, you're going to that because it helps you not feel. My depression is numbing and doing.
But in this season, you couldn't get out of bed.
Because I didn't know what to do. My identity. And that was the first time that I understood that for the first time in my life, I had received attention for something I did. That I was no longer the watchee. I was the one being watched. And I had never experienced that. And it was a very quick ascension. And it was like a microcosm of the world's tiniest industry. But to be good at something, I had never been good at anything. And then to be noticed for something and to have like an opinion and somebody cares about what you say, it was intoxicating.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize then that my identity was with my work. And I worked with a really great therapist early on, and he had said that my identity is in God. And it was like my mind was blown. Like it was so simple. And I was like, yeah, he's like, so nothing you do will separate you from the identity you've been called in, and nothing you do, despite all these mistakes you made and how you want to beat yourself up for them, it's not going to break you from the love that God has for you. And I think that I understood it on like a visceral and intellectual level, but it wasn't until I became a mom that I was just like, I will die 1,000 deaths for my daughter to have one beautiful day. And I think to myself, the God I serve wants the same for me. I didn't understand that love, that I could be loved in that way until going through all of that.
What woke you up to being like, I can try again?
I got tired. I just got tired. I got tired of saying a story that was keeping me stuck. Like what they did. I literally bought into the lie of what they did for so long, for a year, what they did, how they ruined it. And that was the thing. You become a victim when something outside of your control has taken away any sort of options that you think you have. So I was powerless because people outside of my control said things outside of my control that weren't true outside of my control. I was a victim. I was powerless. But how does one become powerful? Is by not being able to control the situation, but being able to control the actions that you take in response to that situation. The minute that turned everything, I had said, I am not that mistake. I am not what they say. I am scared to try again, especially so publicly, because people were looking. But here's the thing. Maybe they were, and maybe they weren't. Maybe they just didn't care. And I would bet on the latter. Nobody's watching you the way that they think, that you think they are. And so when I decided to work behind the scenes on the offer, I just recorded it and then I put it out. And
what did you feel putting it out?
I felt really proud because I had never created an online course. I didn't know how to do it. So JD and I are like working 1 o'clock in the morning being like, what is a lead magnet? Like, what's a squeeze page? You know, what's a funnel? Like, what's our click-through rate? I'm literally teaching myself digital marketing from Google and trying to be like, okay. And I taught a live class and I was like, sign up for my live class. And we saw people signing up and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, what do I teach in this live class? So then I had to figure out, like, well, what am I teaching? And then I have to ask somebody for a sale. I'd only done one-on-one sales at that point in time. And so to be able, there's money on the internet. That's what I was doing, right? A client would hire me online. And then there's internet money. And that you get paid without having to meet with somebody. They see you and they pay you. And that's when my mind was completely blown.
There's the personal side and there's the business side. So on the business side of things, what's been your experience of growing? Like, I own my own thing. I'm growing my company. Like, I mean, we can talk about the software side of stuff too, but because I think there's a difference between the content business,
yes,
and then the software business.
Yes.
Like those are two completely different beasts.
Well, first and foremost, let me lay the current structure of the business out now so that you can ask according to where you think your audience wants to hear it.
Sure.
Myself and JD have a holding company. We have outright equity, being advisors, we invest in, or we have outright ownership in the companies that we have created. Ownership in things like Social Curator, a SaaS tech company for entrepreneurs to market and plan their content. We also have the Consistent 10K. This is a coaching program to help people build consistent 10K months. We also sit as equity advisors for a company called MemberUp. It's a software that allows communities to be built. So what we are doing is having Jasmine Star Brands, the holding company, go through and have active investments in multiple companies. And in a dream world, our portfolio is filled with a similar type of audience so that I could use my personal brand to float these brands until they are ROI positive, posting profitability, or for us, what we're doing with our digital offers is cash flowing our times and investments for the longer term things to maturate.
So, and what people don't appreciate about that is that, again, you're looking at content, which is a loss leader. Like,
yes.
It is. Content doesn't innately make money.
No.
Unless you're in the situation where it's like, if I leverage the brand right and I have a marketing funnel,
yes,
it's so much like the brand of a person is so much cheaper and more effective than a boring marketing company brand.
Yes.
Like, I would say no one looks at your page and says, you were a photographer. I just look at you and I'm saying you're a business owner that talks about brand and content creation. So, yeah, what's a lesson that you've learned in that period of time?
Well, I mean, I just want to be real with you. I'm in the process of learning. Like, I think our paths intersected because I feel like I am going through a whole rebirth, genesis, identity shift. And the biggest lesson I learned is you have to have a system to leverage yourself. And without the system, your voice gets completely lost. So what happens is we're growing so fast with all these opportunities that I did start bringing in people to help me with my podcast creation, where we would sit and we'd have a conversation and then they'd go and like framework and outline for me and then I'm giving it. And then I thought that it was great until I just realized this is not me. It's not me. And having people write blog posts, the blog is still like, especially for generative search engine optimization or like generative engine optimization now with like AI, you'd think that that would work. And I'm like, this is not it. I don't know how to build a system around me yet. My big push for 2026 is, how do I create systems about the way I create content and empower somebody to do that? Because it wasn't the people that I'd hired on the team. These are phenomenal, amazing, brilliant people. But without a system and a way to keep somebody accountable, like, what is their metric? It just doesn't sound like me. Well, give me a way to measure how it sounds like you. And I hadn't taken that time. And I would say like, okay, your job for the next 3 weeks is to watch these podcasts, these videos. I want you to write as if it was me. And I was like, no, I'm still missing it. So having a system to build a personal brand is something that I'm deeply, deeply working on.
I guess this leads to the question of, what do you want to be known for?
That was literally, what I journaled yesterday. Like, I came out here with a day on the front end and a day on the back end because I needed space. The crazy thing was, every quarter I just block out, like I blocked out this date 6 months ago. And I just believed in full on, it's going to be filled with an opportunity, which is why when you and I connect a week ago and I'm like, you're going to be in Vegas? Do you want to take a client? Let's go. Let's fill. Like, it was because it was there. So it was like predestined and everything was in alignment. So I say that because yesterday I just sat down and I had to ask myself, what are you about now? Because you say I'm talking about brand and creation, and somebody else comes to me and says I'm talking about empowering seven-figure female entrepreneurs to scale to 8, and then somebody else comes to me and says, oh, she's talking about how she's building out a new arm of her business, and I'm just like, they're lost because their leader's not leading. And I sat with somebody on my creative team yesterday, and she's just like, do you want to be known as the mom who is achieving balance? Who has an 8-figure business and still has time for her family? Do you want to be known as a systems person? Do you want to be known as the aspirational luxury person? And all of that felt so freaking synthetic, I wanted to puke. I was like, I am not going to choose. I was like, do you want to know what's going to have to happen for me to, I was like, I am going to have to freaking rent a helicopter and I'm going to rent a different car because your girl, I don't care about bags. I don't care. I mean, sure, do I want to ride a private jet like me and everybody else? But it's not like a drive. I'm on a private jet doesn't make me successful. I can pay to do that. What does make me successful? Me doing my own dang thing on my own terms, creating how I want to create and making a lot of money and sharing that wealth with people on my team. And I was like, how is that for a personal brand? How does that represent itself? I work with a virtual team because I am a huge introvert. I don't want to be around a lot of people ever. And so how do I exude that I'm a powerful leader doing this amazing thing? It's like all of it's synthetic. And I was like, how do I find my truth again? Because here's one thing, when I focused on who the heck I was, everything cut away and I attracted the very person I was supposed to work with. I didn't attract fans. I attracted fanatics. Not people who are about me, but about what I represented. And so now I'm at this point, I'm like, what do you freaking represent?
Yeah.
And I hate being so real with that answer because it's just, it's the ugly, dark work. And I know I'm going to figure it out.
I appreciate the vulnerability of that because I think someone saying that with, over 1 million followers across social media, that's rare. I think like at the same time, like there's a beauty in the evolution. You talked about it earlier. When you marry someone, especially young, you don't recognize that they're going to be different people over different seasons. I think there's a beauty in the fact that we do change. Like we want to say absolutes in social media. You want to say, I hate avocados. You want to say, I love avocados. Because if you say, well, avocados are kind of nice, that doesn't engage. Yeah, no one really cares. And so when I hear you say, like, I want to know what I represent, there's something beautiful in the fact that you have a base of people that love you despite the fact that you don't know. And they resonate probably, I would guess, with the fact that like you're a learner. So I guess the question I want to ask in that is, like, you talked about your husband being an anchor for you and you're a kite. Talk to me about that relationship dynamic of how do you talk about this stuff with him in terms of, this is my vision, this is what I want to do, and I need to be full throttle, but I want to do this in a smart way.
I lay it out very factually. So I don't know if you're familiar with Myers-Briggs, but I'm an INTJ.
Okay.
So I'm an introvert. I am highly logical, and I lay things out in data and facts. And so he's been accustomed to this. Like, this is another round for us. This is like season 5 of me trying to iterate. But it's like every 6 years that something in me really radically and fundamentally changes. And for people to be able to watch and witness it, there are people still in my DMs who are like, I've been following you since 2009, since your photo days. I think it does say something because we all change. Not everybody who started off as a photographer with me is still a photographer. And so there is like an appreciation to be able to still grow and get people. So the conversations are simply data and facts. What do I need to do to become the person I want to be? And that is so unlike a lot of people. But I will just follow the steps. I will say, once I figure it out, I'm going to reverse engineer. We created an offer. And this is the first time that I've changed a structure of a business. So the structures of our business is SaaS, and this is buy on demand. And the way we've sold it has been mechanisms of X, Y, and Z. And so to create a coaching program that goes beyond my personal brand, but like the philosophy that we've created around building a digital business. And as we built out our sales team, I invested heavily into a consultant to teach me how to build out a sales team, to actually do sales. And one of the things they had said was, you can't expect somebody to sell your offer if you haven't sold it. I was like, no. See, I've been in this game a minute, honey. Like, I can do this. And they said, no, you've never done it this way. And so to sit through over 100 sales calls was the greatest lesson in human psychology and empathy that I was not prepared for. I went in thinking I was sharpening a business tool, and what I walked away with was this deep, deep fracture of the heart and a deep understanding around the humanness of humanity when they're so tired of not getting a win. They come to this call because they're in pain. The pain is, I'm working a job I don't like with a deep desire. I would like consistent 10K months. And then what is the distance, the chasm between desire and a solution that could work? Because before we actually talk about an investment, we do something called a temp check. Is this in alignment with you on a scale of 1 to 10? I can't tell you how many people I sat across and they said, this is a 10. And the fact that it was more than $1, they were like, what? Well, you see, it was this. And oh, you see, it was that. And I've tried it before. And he said I couldn't do it. And my husband has to approve of everything that I do. And to sit on those calls again and again and again and again and again, I walk away every single day and I keep on asking myself, why? What is this? And the only thing I can come up with is we fear failure more than we fear staying miserable. Because there's the misery you know and the failure of the unknown. And despite my best efforts, I look at people and I'm like, it's not a failure. It's the thing that's helping you get to where you want to go. You can't fail. Every time I invested $100,000 for a 4-month mastermind with Gary Vaynerchuk. And people are like, how could you possibly get an ROI on that? I was like, I got an ROI because I make my ROI. The greatest ROI I got was watching him walk in the freaking room. How big was his video crew? How did he speak to people? What was he saying on the in-between? How did they navigate and ensure that women spoke before the men spoke in a room that's normally dominated? It was 90% men in the room. And what were they doing? He's texting other people on the team to make sure to invite a woman to speak first. I'm watching all of this and y'all want to talk to me about an ROI? That right there. The way that people, humans, and interact. If you're hardwired to be afraid of something not working out the way that you had expected, you will stay in your misery. You will choose your misery. You will become a master of your misery because you're so afraid of it not working out the way that you wanted, instead of saying it might not work out the way that I wanted, but I will be better then than I am now. Can I not just make that bet? And I promise you, when you go all in, my husband and I, we always say, burn the boats. I will tell you right now, I can go back to the rate of growth I can building on social media the minute I start dancing. The minute I involve my daughter in a lip sync. The minute I turn with my husband and we clink and we cheers and we kiss and we have a shot of us holding hands on the beach. I can grow that way. I don't want to. I want to grow in a way that's true to me and not artificially stimulated by what is really popular. Can I chart my own course and attract people into that orbit?
First off, thank you. I think there's a couple ahas that someone watching will feel and hear in the midst of that, especially acknowledging a fear of failure. It's important to acknowledge that. It's important to just say, like, this could happen. But also the way you've redefined it, I don't think I see a lot of motivational speakers talk about it, and the one thing that is true, the one thing that's not BS, the one thing that's not just like this handbook where someone's trying to sell you a course and you just need to pay money so that you can feel better or you can take action or whatever. The part of it that every person universally needs to understand is that if you expand a time horizon and you realize you're going to live a whole life, and it's not about this month, it's not about this year, it's not about this decision, it's not about this place, it's about how this thing can help you get to the next thing, and if that next thing in 10 years you're going to be proud of. The reality is most people are thinking about next month's paycheck, and they're not thinking about 10 years from now, am I living the life I want to live? And what's so evident in your experience, especially considering what you've overcome as a child and what you've conquered internally, is that you understand this is who I want to be, and this is what I want to feel when I'm at these end seasons. I think a lot of people need to confront that. You say that as if it's like you don't actually. There's no passivity with it, but it's so matter of fact to you. That's the thing that's not matter of fact to 90% of people watching.
Do you know why I could speak matter-of-factly about that? Is because I've spent the last 6 months on the regular asking myself and writing it down. What do you want? What do you want? A lot of times people won't take the risk to change where they are now because they don't know what they want. What do you want? And it doesn't come easy. It's one of the hardest questions that you can ask yourself. Because after you've said, okay, I want $1 million. Okay, what do you want? What does $1 million get you? Well, you see, I want the Rollie. Okay, and then when you want the Rolex, what do you want? And that work is the deep work. And so I can speak matter-of-factly because I have clearly identified the person I want to be, not the things I want to have. And when you identify who you want to be, you only collect things that you want to have that empowers you to be that version. Because if I have the Benz and the Rollie and all of the other fancy things of things that I can't even think of because your girl didn't grow up knowing what red bottom shoes were, all the things that think people would matter to fit in, to be liked by people they don't know and they don't care about, who do you want to be? I just want to who do I want to be? And then how do I collect things to help me be that person? Not how do I collect things and let me magically figure out who I want to be in the future.
I want to ask you that question though. What have you written down? Who do you want to be?
Over 6 months, it's like I walk everywhere. I have it here with me in my purse. It's just a black notebook. And I write things that I see around the world, right? So for instance,
Can you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is real.
It's real.
This is real. Yeah, I want to see. I want to know.
We fancy. Got my name.
I love it.
Got my name right here.
Come on.
And then I buy these really cool pens from Japan. They're 0.8. So they write I have really small. People say I write like a mouse. It's pretty small writing.
It's still beautiful. So tell me what something that you've written down recently.
So in regards to what I want,
Yeah.
A few months ago, Layla Hermosi was talking about how they're hiring a brand strategist. And I just said, that's what I want. So I wrote down brand strategist. A friend of mine had hired a home organizer, like my neighbor. They all rolled up and I said, oh, that's what I want. And then an influencer online had a manicurist come to her house. I was like, that's what I want. Just writing down things that I want. Because in everything you say you want, a pattern is revealed. So when I was looking at these things, what was the common theme between all of them? Time. Everything bought time. So on a subconscious level, the time that I experienced with my mom and the shortness of life and maximizing time for moments and creativity. I just realized that who I want to be in the future has prioritized time for moments and creativity. I know that I'm at a phase in my life where I'm tripling down on creation and creativity as a division of the divine that is in me. But also at the same time, I don't want to sacrifice building these multitudes of businesses for money and things for sacrificing time with my husband and my daughter and the people who I care for the most. So the person I want to be is setting an example for what is possible for the people who are not the most qualified and not the most talented, but those who refuse to give up. I have been knocked down so many times. So what is the thing I actually want? Time. Time to continue to be the example, build businesses, put presidents on top of every single one of our holding companies, empower them to do something magical and amazing and creative. So we're helping other people. But who do I want to be? An example for what is impossible.
What's impossible?
Wow. I don't know. Well, I know, and I'm just trying not to cry. Hold up. Ooh. Okay. Come back. I think, oh man. It's a really politically charged climate right now. And I see a lot of families getting divided. And there is a girl whose father is an immigrant. We're in Las Vegas, and my grandfather was a night security guard at the Las Vegas Convention Center. And I spoke on a massive stage there. I don't think that people look at the people who are on the backbone of the country and look at what their children could do. So what do I think is impossible? I think it statistically is impossible for a child of an immigrant to build multiple 8-figure businesses and empower other people to do the same thing. Statistically, the majority of Puerto Rican girls are pregnant before the age of 19. More than 50%. So to be an outlier, statistically, 4% of companies in America will cross 7 figures in a year. 0.7% of those companies are female-led. So what's really impossible statistically, 0.7% of all businesses in this country will be 7-figure business will be run by women. And how much of that will be 8-figure businesses? What's the impossible statistically? Somebody who's unqualified, undereducated, unfunded, and unconnected, doing something statistically virtually nobody else is doing.
Yeah, I think there's power in being the evidence. I love when I meet people that don't question what God can do. Yeah, because there's a few impossibles that have happened in your life. If you are the evidence of what God can do, there's a lot of people that need that evidence. There's a lot of people that internally believing in themselves are saying, it's impossible, I can't, it's not qualified, I'm too ugly, I'm too fat, I have this family situation, my parents are divorced, I'm not well educated, I don't do well in school, I feel lonely, I feel tired, I feel sick. But when you see evidence and then you say like, oh, and you hear it from someone that says like, I am not special. I think there's something powerful in just being like, if I can just be a person of faith and just say like, God, what would you have of me to do in this? Like, what would you say? What do you want me to create? What do you want to do through me? What do I have to overcome? What do I have to face in order to be the vessel that I can be the evidence for somebody else? I think there's something really beautiful in that. I want to end because I want to talk to you about the process of adopting your daughter. Because I think that's another example of this. Mm-hmm. What was the process of wanting to become a mom like before you had her?
It's so layered. It's totally so layered. I am the eldest of 5 children. I took on a lot of responsibility really young. And so it didn't have like that burning desire. I was not the girl who was just like, I just dream of being a mom. Like that's my life's calling. I've always been very ambitious and I wanted to make sure that I would be able to be a family contributor. That was like a big deal for me. And I liked financial autonomy. I did. My husband and I share bank accounts. We share everything. But there is something about being a contributor. marked by nobody, just my inner force was like, this is the thing that I want. And we had a conversation around family, and I think that my husband is an incredible man, and I just knew that he is going to be an incredible father, and he's hardwired for children. And so prior to us getting married, we had conversations around what that looks like. And so it was very much, here again, a logical conversation for me that I was going to become a mom, but not for later. I wanted to build up businesses before.
When did you say now?
Like 6 years ago. Oh, no, gosh, no, not 6 years ago. It was like 10 years ago.
Okay.
It was like 10 years ago. I'm like, maybe now is the time. These are things that we should start be thinking about. And then life is complicated and it doesn't always work out the way that you expect. But one thing that I knew deep as a child, I remember there was a missionary who came from Russia and Ukraine, and there was a lot of children who were left out on the streets. And so she started an orphanage, and she was talking about how these orphans just needed somebody to hold them, that they would be crying for so long that their faces would be frozen in their cry without having a voice emitted. I was 8 years old and I'm hearing this, and all I knew in that moment beyond anything was that I was going to adopt. It was just always my truth. And so being able to meet a man who was also good with adoption, we thought that we were going to have biological children and expand our family by way of adoption, so that when it didn't happen naturally for us, it was like the next step was, well, yeah, of course. Are you good with this? I'm good with this. Like, what is family? Family is what we decide and what God gives us. So we had started that, and we didn't think it was going to take as long as it did. It was over 3 years.
Are you okay if I ask questions?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
I think the process of any couple I interact with that has fertility issues, that is one of the hardest things that they've ever experienced. Was that, in the midst of growing all this stuff, was that difficult?
Yes and no. Because here again, being so highly logical, it was just like, okay, well, if not this, then that. And we're going to move forward. What I didn't know what was happening then, it has only come out like later in life, that there was a lot of complicated things in my childhood that I didn't remember. And I think that it was manifesting itself much later in life. There was a lot of things. And I'm happy that that wasn't taken into consideration then. I think that I was in the wherewithal in this space in my mind that I needed to make a decision about adoption in a factual way, and then later understand what was happening internally.
Yeah, because I think there's a very natural reaction that's so sad, but there's a thought of like, what's wrong with me?
I experienced it through the adoption process. It wasn't through the biological component of it. We would get pretty close. Maybe the last 2 or 3 families considered. So a birth mom will look through books or profiles and select a couples, and then sit with them, maybe talk with them. And so there were a couple times that we had gotten real close, like 1 of 2. And when you get that close, you can almost feel it. You already start imagining it. You let your heart believe it. And then when you're not selected, it was a lot of those questions. Like, do they see that I don't have the mom thing? Like, what about me is making them not choose me as a mom?
How long was that process?
About 3.5 years.
So what doubts are you overcoming in there?
I think I got to a point where I was like, oh, I think God is telling us, like, we're cool, just the 2 of us. Like, I immediately rationalized, like, I'm okay. I'm not going to like, it was getting close to 2020. And I was like, I think I'm good. I'm an energetic block, and it's just not for us. And JD and I were good. We were okay being us. We had already come to that. And he had said, let's just try one more chance, because through the adoption process is you have a list of criteria of what you're willing to accept. I'm okay if the birth mom smokes. I'm not okay. I'm okay with this type of drug, not that type of drug. I'm okay with this type of prenatal care, not that type of prenatal care. So what we do is we're like, oh, we're just going to optimize for like the best case scenario. And oftentimes, statistically, adoptions, not all the time, statistically, a larger percent of the time, they're not ideal. And so we were deeply limiting ourselves. And I also said, I want to adopt a girl. Our lawyer had instructed us, you are really limiting yourself, because most of the time when women are giving their children the opportunity to be adopted, they don't know the gender. So you can be placed much sooner if you're open to it. And I was like, I'm a girl mom, dude. Like, you just don't get it. And it was at the end of 2029 that what was revealed very clearly is I wanted to play God. I wanted a daughter. I wanted health. I wanted a relationship with the birth mom. I wanted it in certain states. In the United States, there is a 24-hour or a 48-hour adoptive period where the parent can decide to stay with their child. And in other states, it could be up to 30 days. So I wanted it to be in a state where it was a shorter amount of time so that we wouldn't have to live elsewhere, all these other things. At the end of 2019, it was very clear that God was saying, take it all off and trust. So we said, we're okay to everything. And January 2020, we get a call, like a baby was born in Las Vegas. It's a girl, get in the car. And then we did.
What did you feel?
We felt a mix of things. It was the craziest time because you throw everything in your car. And you don't have baby clothes, you don't have bottles, you don't have diapers, you don't have a car seat, you don't have all of these other things. And so you're making a list, but then you're tentative because there were other people, other parents who were being considered. And then we didn't know anything about the baby. And we're like, is the baby healthy? What was the situation? We don't know anything. And then we get here and the situation was very complicated. It was not ideal. You didn't know the status. It was a very painful situation. And out of respect just to my daughter, I want her to tell her story with things that she is okay sharing. It took a great deal of faith for us to trust that the situation was going to work in our favor. We have shared publicly that her parents left the hospital, and so she went into foster care while we were here. And so we went and stayed in Vegas for weeks and weeks through that proceeding, and it went elevated to an appellate court, and the state ruled on our behalf instead of keeping the child in foster care with a foster family. And then we became a family on February 2nd, 2020, and they opened the door. And I know it sounds so crazy, and I don't need anybody to believe it, but all I knew is like I saw this child in a carrier, and everything I felt from her was just power, She was born into very difficult circumstances. And all I knew in that moment, she's good. She's really, really good. Took her in my arms, immediately took a bottle, and I thought to myself, everything led us to this moment. She is my child, and she is her mother's child, and she is my husband's child, and she is her father's child. And the minute we met her, we told her that there are two mamas who love her. There are two daddies who love her. And we're going to tell you your first name, and we will tell you your birth name. And you will know that your parents needed some help. And we want you to love them. And they made the hardest decision. We told her that on day one. And now we pray for them every single night. I come back to Vegas, and I look. Are they here? Are they here? Will she know them? Will she call them? Will she be able to ask questions? My prayer is that she knows that she was loved and she can meet them and she can ask questions. At this point in time, we have had no contact, but we do have an open adoption. My prayer is that she gets answers to her questions, but deeply, deeply, deeply knows that they made the hardest decision.
What would you say to them?
I love them. I know life has been very hard for them. I would like to tell her mom how much I appreciate her going to court and advocating for us. I would like to thank her dad for being okay to allow her to be adopted. I would like to tell them if they ever need help, we would do everything in our power to support them. However it looked.
The reason I get emotional about this is that I know that for For every person that chooses not to keep their child, for a myriad of reasons, and I empathize, I think women become victims of so much more, and often it's a choice of, I don't have any choices. But something that I think needs to be stated is that for every situation like that, there's someone like you that wants to love a kid that needs to be loved. What can you share with me about the process of adoption? Is that system broken? Or if someone wants to find their kid, they're part of their family. If someone wants to open up their family and say, we welcome you, we want to make a space for you, how accessible is it?
It's very difficult. The system is really, truly, and entirely broken. It's painful that the people who are the most advantaged will have the best abilities to adopt. There are so many families, good, kind families, that just can't afford the level of investment that is required to adopt a child. But where there is a will, there is a way. We were working with an agency, so there's different, and it's terrible, but there's like different tiers. So the most the most cost-effective way to adopt a child would be foster to adopt. But by and large, the child has to be in foster care for a series of years unless the parent relinquishes responsibility of the child. And oftentimes that's a big years. And so what I didn't want, which is I thought was going to happen, is if we were to adopt a child through the foster care system, which we had started, we were certified through the state of California to be able to do that, but the parent can come in at any other time. And I just said, my heart is not shaped at this point in time with a new family for us to live with a child for 2 or 3 years and happily go back to their birth parent, but it would just break everything inside of me. Yeah. So we went through like a Christian agency, and that was a little bit more expensive, but not as expensive. I mean, it was more expensive than foster to adopt, but the agency, it was just a longer process, and it was waiting for a parent to come to the agency, and you had to be in alignment. And so then after all of this wait, we decided to go straight to Beverly Hills adoption attorney, and we said, give us the Cadillac, like whatever it takes. And we wrote every check. And the people who have means have options.
Is it harder to adopt in America than it is to adopt a kid from another country?
It depends the administration. So we went initially as an international, and then with the administration changed, it became a lot more difficult, and the waiting time became difficult. And so we decided to focus stateside. But the reason why we went international was that there's so much need international, but also at the time it was faster.
Mm-hmm. What's your daughter's 5 now?
5.
That's so cool. Yeah, my daughter was born. So, are you saying your daughter Luna was born in 2020 January?
Yeah.
My daughter was born February 19 of 2020.
Oh, so little pandemic babies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was that first year of motherhood like for you?
The best. So we were placed with Luna, and in order to take a child across state lines, you need proper documentation. Well, it was the start of the pandemic, and we started seeing that city offices started closing. And so what would normally take like a week was taking weeks, like with no end in sight, and it just kept on like amplifying. And so at the time, we were trying to say, like, do we just get an Airbnb because we're going to be staying here? Like, we just don't know how long, but we didn't know how long. And so we went to an Airbnb. We're like, we don't know. It could be a week. It could be a month. We don't know. And so then it was at the start of the pandemic, and they had said, no, we're only taking long-term rentals now. So we ended up living in a hotel in Vegas for almost, I think, 8 or 9 weeks. And I was so disappointed because we couldn't show our family, our daughter, and we couldn't take her across the state line. And all I think about was, so in some parts of Mexico, after a mom has a baby, she stays in her house for 30 days alone with the baby and the dad. And the people bring food to their porch, and that's how they become bonded and as a unit. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that what we needed as a family was to be bonded, just the 3 of us. So it's us in a hotel room, the 3 of us, and I'm working, and JD's working, but we have this baby who's sleeping like 20 hours a day. We're getting food delivered to our front door. Like the bellman put her car seat in the car. Like the lady's like, I went to like a mall here and I just bought all these baby clothes because we didn't have any baby clothes. And then the sweet ladies, our housekeeper said, we need to wash her clothes. As a new mom, I didn't know you were supposed to wash new baby clothes. So they bring them and they're all precious and they give her a stuffed animal. And it was like this little tiny community of people who cared for her, but it was just the three of us. I didn't know we needed that. And like all I look back is like God is saying, I have this. Trust me. Trust that you need this. So it was just the three of us. And then I was so disappointed because during the pandemic, I had all of these speaking events. I had a whole revenue line that was just completely postponed. We didn't know like indefinitely. We had prior to adopting Luna, we had just put an offer on a house and we're like, we're going to live in it and we're going to refurbish it. And then all of a sudden, when you have to have adoption approved, your child has to stay in like a safe home, and living in a construction zone was not very safe. So then we ended up selling like moving everything in our house. We signed the paperwork with a Rotary who came to our hotel, and we're buying this house and we think we're going to be home. Yeah, of course we'll be home in 30 days. It's a 30-day close. We're still in Vegas like 38 days later. We rent back the house from the owner. We said, we're trying to adopt a child. We can't move our stuff. Like, even if we wanted to, our house is full. Not a single shred of clothing is in a box. So finally we get permission. We come back. JD stays up 3 days straight and is just packing everything. It's a pandemic. Nobody's renting. We move into an apartment. Our house is a construction zone. Everything's on pause because like the ports of Los Angeles are filled with every piece of lumber that you would ever need, but they can't come in because nobody's at the shipping yard. And I'm sitting there thinking, this is the best thing ever. The world is a dumpster fire, and I have a child, and my life is so rad. She is the coolest kid. And here's the thing. Every parent thinks their kid is awesome, and none of us are wrong. But all I know was that this kid came in as the perfect shape of JD and I. She is so cool. She's so smart. And this is the story of this is the power that is God's call on this child's life. She was born with Hep C. And you don't ever have it disappear. It's something you live with. She was diagnosed at the hospital. You're supposed to get tested on her first year. She had it. We go back for her second year testing, and we had a bunch of people at church praying. She doesn't have it. The daughter that is in our life has found a way to go internal and become the person she's supposed to become. Being her mom makes me feel like the luckiest person because I get to see how powerful a human can come into the world and see a divine calling on her life.
She got diagnosed with Hep C, and it disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
What's been something you've realized about yourself since you become a mother?
I feel like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm supposed to be her mom. Then I don't know if I ever give myself the space to believe that. And I'm a good mom. And I never thought that I would be able to say that about myself.
What does it mean to be a good mom?
To allow her to be heard, to give her all this space for her emotions, to empower her to speak her mind, to teach her how to apply logic and dwell in her emotion, to advocate for herself, to set impossible dreams, to tell her right now that she didn't fail. We just got to try again. It's like to have somebody in your corner to shape your limitless possibilities is the greatest gift.
Something I think is beautiful is that, and I'm understanding this. I don't want to sound like I'm uneducated on the emotional process of this, but I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. When you adopt a kid, it sounds like because it's such a whirlwind, you have to adjust. Mm-hmm. Like you spent a lot of time saying, "I want to be a mom," and you're in the state similar to people that are trying and trying to have kids, being like, I want to be a mom, I want to be a mom. And they don't realize I'm going to be a mom until they see a pregnancy test. And meanwhile, you don't see and hear, I'm going to be a mom until you receive a phone call saying there's a kid that's waiting for you.
And yet even then you don't allow yourself to believe it. But yes.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for people that have biological kids, it's they have that 9-month process. Moms have 9 months to be like to freak out, to grow, to get accustomed, prepare, to be like, oh, okay, these are the things, these are the clothes. I need to wash the clothes.
Plan maternity leave.
Yes. Yeah. Meanwhile, you are a businesswoman being like, oh, I've got a kid, and I gotta learn how to be a mom now, as if I've been planning to have this at this time all this time. But I think there's something really beautiful. Like I loved 2020 as well, because I didn't work remotely, and then I was like, I'm working remotely, and I had a kid, and I was like, I don't want to see anybody else. I just like, it's kind of nice that I can just like be
100.
I can learn this.
Yes.
And I can leave a meeting and I can be like, oh, I can spend time. And it sounds like you didn't expect it, but like that was your process of, yes. I am being okay with the fact that I am now a mom.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was the greatest gift. To me, it was the grandest God wink ever.
I hope everyone that has COVID babies enjoyed themselves.
They had to.
No one talks about it. There was so much bad that was happening. And
right.
I felt so much guilt being like,
so did I.
This is awesome.
And I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
I was just like, what?
Yeah.
We just get to be by ourselves with this amazing, precious bundle of joy. That's
so cool. Yeah, what's evident in your life, Jasmine, is that there's miracles. And what I appreciate, what I hope people resonate with, is that you don't have to have things figured out. And that the skill set is to develop a comfortability with the uncertainty and to develop a comfortability with failure. I want to. This is the last question I want to ask. If there's something that you want your daughter to know when she's an adult, all this time that she spent with you, all this time that you spent raising her, if there's something that she wants to think about you and that she wants to walk away with, what is that thing?
The things I deeply wanted in life, the things I deeply wanted to hear at the end of my life. She was courageous. She was kind. She was patient. Will have required me to have to choose myself to make courageous decisions and be in situations that made me afraid. And to be patient would be to put myself in a situation that would require a next level version of that I would be voluntarily choosing something slow to learn the art and the gift that is patient. And if I wanted to be called kind, I would have to be put into situations that would challenge me to be kind to a person who wildly wasn't. The thing I want her to know about her mom is when people speak of her mother, it was because it was with deep intention that I had applied myself in very uncomfortable situations to embody the things that I want her to see in me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I give you a hug?
Yeah. We're still crying in this podcasting. Oh my gosh.